Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew and Jerry Save the World, episode 85. Andrew and Jerry ask, is DEI really DEI? I'm Andrew Langer.
Jerry Rogers.
And we want to talk about this in the context of the 2024 presidential election, because this is now becoming a central issue here as both sides, as we're recording this, President Trump yesterday talked to the National Association of Black Journalists. Kamala Harris was not there. Donald Trump made some statements about Kamala Harris and her Indian American heritage, being that's how she is identified. And now she is being promoted as being an African American woman. And this has raised a great deal of controversy. Um, Listen, I've now gone back and watched a ton of this event yesterday, Jerry. And I think it's saying something that Donald Trump went and that Kamala Harris did not. Even they didn't want her to participate virtually, especially if Donald Trump was going to be there. But it shows that Donald Trump can sit on a stage with 2 out of 3 reporters who are openly hostile to him and spend the better part of an hour answering very stilted and provocative questions. Now, did he answer them the way I necessarily would have answered them? No. But he answered them in the way that we would have expected Donald Trump to answer them.
Yes. Look, off the bat, right? Good for him for showing up. Good for him for sitting there for how long, Andrew? An hour, around an hour. He was there for a long time. It was an extended interview.
It was closer to about 40 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. But this is something Kamala Harris has not done. This is something that Joe Biden never did.
Well, he did it virtually but Joe Biden wasn't sitting there. He was part of a panel.
But
but he was never there in person. Yes.
As you know, when you're engaged with an audience and
100%.
and a interviewer live in person, much different. I mean, even right now, I could be looking at notes. There could be a staffer over here with cue cards. The dynamic is not the same. But so that's number one. Good for him for showing up. It just shows you that whether you like his answers or not, there's transparency with Donald Trump. He gives you what's top of mind in the moment he's talking with you. Now, the attention has been to the questions about race and this sort of thing, but there were other questions. This was not just about how Kamala Harris identifies herself. It was substance as well there. But I do want to comment on the beginning just really quick.
Yeah, please.
Because it was a hostile question. It was out of order, and again shows you how the media is in the tank for the Harris campaign. They went back 8-9 years with the birtherism, with the birth certificate. They brought that story back.
They went back to the Central Park rape trial.
Right. And what bothers me about that is arguably those things are important, but given the Clinton rule, they've been adjudicated in the public. We've talked about this for 10 years and longer. So therefore, they're bringing up items and topics that we have discussed. Number one. Number two, there are flip-flops that Kamala Harris made yesterday, day before yesterday, a week ago, that she has not been asked to explain.
Right.
And what's worse is, and again, there's a thing called the internet, and you can go and find CNN news stories and other podcasts and TV shows where Kamala Harris celebrated and identified as an Indian American.
Oh yeah, I played some of those today. My favorite one is besides the CNN did a really great sort of lengthy piece about her Indian American heritage and the importance of her mother. But the thing she did with Mindy Kaling.
Yes.
You
should play that in juxtaposition with what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump said, "Hey, she identified as an Indian American."
Right.
And the reporter says, "Oh no, she doesn't. Oh yes. No, she didn't." Yes, she did. Now here's the point behind that. Kamala Harris has leveraged her ethnicity to her advantage, depending upon
The audience.
who she's talking to, and what the audience is. Again, that's politics, but the media should recognize that and be fair about it, and they're not.
Well, right. It is akin to Hillary Clinton pulling out a bottle of hot sauce from her purse, or Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Al Gore changing their accents depending on what audience they're speaking to. I mean, this is sort of the craven political things. And the reality is that it is a distraction from the real questions that should have been asked yesterday. And they did ask him about mental incapacities and things of that nature. But the questions that need to be asked about Kamala Harris: do you still support taxpayers footing the bill for transgender surgeries for prisoners? Right? That she was, proudly touting that.
Will she still issue an executive order to confiscate Americans their firearms?
Yeah, the compensated confiscation, Jerry. The idea, and as I pointed out on the air today, this issue of, we already have seen where the Biden-Harris administration has defied the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says you can't spend money on X, you can't do X. The Biden-Harris administration says, well, we're going to do it anyway. Now, when you add the idea of implicating the Second Amendment into all this, this cannot end well. This is a real problem here. And so, that question has to be asked. But this is actually, let me posit this to you.
But real quick, go through this list quickly, right?
Yeah.
Do you support decriminalizing illegal border crossings?
Right.
Do you still support a blanket amnesty? Do you still support making private insurance illegal? I mean, the list is endless in terms of her very radical and very recent positions on myriad issues. The media has not asked her to clarify the flip-flops.
Right. And this gets into, well, there's the overarching question that I want to ask you, but then you contrast this with the way that Project 2025 has been misrepresented in the media, right? And we can go through the list of all of the lies about Project 2025 that are out there. I got a text message from somebody saying that, Project 2025 was going to eliminate their job. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's quite true. A lot of stuff is going to be privatized. And if there's duplication, well, frankly, maybe it should be eliminated. But that's all lies. You can go through Kamala Harris's own statements and the media isn't. But this gets into my overarching question, Jerry. I think that Kamala Harris, I think that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are going to have a debate, right? I think Donald Trump.
Well, and let me put a parenthesis after your comment, and that is Donald Trump negotiated with the Biden campaign for 2 debates. They should renegotiate and have
100%.
And I think they should debate. However, there's a nonsense announcement today or earlier yesterday, where she says on September 10th, I'm showing up at the prearranged debate venue. Well, again, no, that debate was set with Joe Biden. Joe Biden has backed out.
This is like, Jerry, I got into this with a listener to John Justice's show who wanted to make a bet with me about the election. And I had said, made a bet about what happens if No Labels runs a candidate and who wins. When No Labels didn't run a candidate, this person tried to claim that she had won the bet. And I said, no, that's not the way this works. The bet's a push. The bet's off because, the conditions of the bet have changed. But now, and that's essentially the same thing here. But this is my question to you, Jerry. Could we possibly, setting aside the issue of the debates, is it possible that we're going to have an election cycle in which one of the presidential candidates doesn't do an open interview with press that is shall we say, hostile, right? Because we all know that I'm sure we can call them independent journalists, but in the past, a Barack Obama or even a Joe Biden would do an interview with, say, the Wall Street Journal or whomever else. Is Kamala Harris going to actually engage in an interview with a reporter or reporters that are going to ask her tough questions about these issues? I suspect we're in a time we're in the possibility where Kamala Harris is not going to get vetted by the press in this way.
She will not be vetted by the press. And in fact, her strategy is to do a basement style campaign vis-a-vis 2020. This will happen, and the media will give her a pass.
By the way, that's Jerry doing his impression of John McLaughlin from the McLaughlin Group. If you just put a little spin on that, yes, she will. She will do it from her basement, just like 2020.
But of course, again, she hasn't been asked any questions. She hasn't been asked to clarify her positions. In fact, the media has run as a public affairs firm for her. The media has lied to us about her being the point person or the czar on the border. The media has lied to us about her being the most left wing to the left of Bernie Sanders in the United States Senate. The media has lied to us about her positions and her flip-flops. The media is 100% in the bag. This is what bothers me.
Yeah.
And this is where Donald Trump, there was a missed opportunity when it came to the National Association of Black Journalists Conference. He should have gone down her flip-flops. He should have gone down her ability to lead. He should have discussed the undemocratic way in which Joe Biden was pushed out. He should have raised the question about, we don't know if Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer or former Speaker Nancy Pelosi or other Democrats threatened to use the 25th Amendment. That's important,
right?
Because if they did leverage that, if they said, look, Mr. President, if you don't drop out of the race, we will invoke the 25th Amendment. Well, that means that he's unable to serve as president as well. And so therefore, there's all kinds of underdealings here. And he could have used this as a means to bring these topics to the forefront, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Also,
please.
Also, he could have made the case. He awkwardly raised the issue about, is she of Indian descent? Is she a Black American? Is she Jamaican or African American? He awkwardly made that point. I think it matters. I think it matters to different segments and demographics of the population. But what he should have used their language. He should have said that Kamala Harris has lived a privileged elite life. She's from California, and she's married to a white man of Jewish descent. She is light-skinned. She's of Indian descent, and she's used that in the past. Her proximity to whiteness. If this was a Republican candidate, her proximity to whiteness would be the story. Remember how the left has attacked Clarence Thomas, Senator Tim Scott, and other Black Americans because it's not a question of your Blackness. It's a question of your politics.
Right.
And if Kamala Harris, if her politics didn't match, she would be a Republican of Indian descent who benefited from her proximity to whiteness and her light skin.
Add to this, right? Remember, it's interesting you bring this up because it gets into this issue of her, right? Remember, they want to run on her record. Now they want to run on her record. Her record as a prosecutor. Wes Moore talked about this. Well, she's a prosecutor. How dare you accuse a prosecutor of being soft on crime? Well, okay, then let's take that to its logical conclusion. So
Marilyn Mosby, right? Wes Moore.
No, I know, but hold on.
The governor of Maryland making this ridiculous point when for the last 8 years in Baltimore City, Maryland's biggest city, had a prosecutor who didn't prosecute, and there was a murder. It was a murder capital of America.
Right. And so, but let's assume for a moment that Wes Moore is correct, that she was a tough on crime prosecutor. And let's tie this into what Jerry just said, folks. So she is a white adjacent prosecutor who has put more Black men in prison and more Black people in prison for drug crimes than any of her predecessors. If she were a Republican, this is what the left would be screaming about.
Right.
That gets to Jerry's point.
And also just to bring it to the immediate, again, her administration, the Harris-Biden administration, and this Justice Department just made a plea deal with the mastermind of 9/11, where again, we have the culprits in custody, and yet we're plea dealing with them. We're giving them a lesser sentence.
It shows you how
That's not tough on crime.
Let's how gutless you are in terms of wanting to take this to court, right? You're so afeared of losing that you're going to plead this out. Oh, and by the way, at the same time this is happening, we got the one story: KSM and accomplices, they get a plea deal. At the same time, some trade has been made to bring back these journalists from Russia. And we don't know what the instances, we don't know what we're giving up in return. At a time when we're supposed to be getting tough on Russia, we've made some deal with the Russians to bring them back. And hold on for a second, Jerry.
Yeah.
But and if Donald Trump were president right now, right? If Donald Trump had done this and gotten this deal done, you can bet the media would be asking all the questions. Oh, Donald Trump is Putin's puppet. He's doing Putin's bidding, and that's how he's bringing this person home. What did Donald Trump give up for America in order to get these people back? But of course, it's Joe Biden, so nobody's asking the question. Sorry, go ahead.
And again, the fourth estate should do its job.
Yes.
The Biden-Harris administration, the Harris-Biden administration, has a history of giving away billions to terrorist regimes and rogue governments. Look, we just had an election stolen in Venezuela.
Yep.
The Biden-Harris administration, the Harris-Biden administration, gave them a pass, gave them resources. Why? In the promise of a fair election. We didn't get it. So what is Harris doing about that now? Has anyone asked Vice President Harris about the Venezuelans taken to the streets and being jailed and murdered by their own government, a government that she made a deal with? And no one's asking that question.
Let me tie this into the pivot this week on the issue of immigration and Kamala being the immigration czar, because there was another opportunity in all of this that I think that was missed. Right. Remember, so late last week and into the weekend, the story was that Kamala was not the border czar, that Kamala was just in charge of one discrete aspect of it, dealing with the root causes of illegal migration. Then it pivoted into, well, now Kamala can run on her record. And you had Chris Murphy and Chris Coons go on TV to talk about this and her great record. Stick with me for a second, Jerry. And one of the things that I think it was Chris Coons was talking about, no, it was Chris Murphy, was saying, well, she met with all of these nations and she got $5 billion, a $5 billion commitment from 50 different US companies to invest in these countries. What no one's talking about is this is exactly what JD Vance has been saying on the campaign trail. That what they're saying is that in order to stop illegal migration, we need to offshore jobs, and we are going to work with companies to offshore their jobs. That's what investing in these countries is. It's moving US jobs to these other countries, where there are a whole bunch of other things that can be done to stop illegal migration. And yes, we can, rework their economies, but this is not the way to do it. And so we need to have a substantive pushback. I'm sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
No, but again, what I'm concerned with today is during the 2020 election cycle, you and I talked about this on the podcast, on our radio shows, wherever we had a venue. We spoke about how in front of us, in real time, the left, the big tech, the Democrats were rigging the election, and evidence of that is plain. We know what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop. We know about the censorship push from big tech and the DOJ and the FBI. They're doing it again. But they're doing that again, right? There's a news this week about the FBI going to work with tech companies to push back on false information. There's this issue this week that Google had made a mistake, and I'm using quotes with my fingers, that they did not mean to censor the picture of Donald Trump with the flag after he was shot, but they censored it. Again, there's this,
the various companies programming their AI to deny that Donald Trump was shot.
Right. Again, so that this is happening, but what's worse is the media. Again, just in the last 48 hours or 72 hours, we have a plea deal for the terrorists responsible for 9/11.
Yep.
There's nothing being said about this. Kamala Harris is not being questioned over it. We have this non-transparent deal with Russia in exchange for prisoners. We don't know what the facts are here. We have what, again, the election in Venezuela, which should be front page everywhere, because again, this was Biden-Harris policy to prop up the dictator,
right,
with money and resources to get the fair election we didn't get. Where's the question? So will ask Donald Trump about something that happened 10 years ago in terms of the Central Park crime issues from 2 decades ago.
Right, 2 decades.
But we're not going to ask Kamala Harris today about the failed election and the murder of citizens in Venezuela that was a byproduct of her policy.
You know, I think this is where it gets into, and we need to have a conversation with somebody like Susan Crabtree on this airways. You and I both talked to Susan on our shows. But, you know, I want to know, you know, I'll ask around. I want to know which reporters are traveling with the vice president right now. Right. You know, there is somebody who is, there are scores of reporters, groups of reporters who travel with these candidates all the time. And I want to know who's in there, who's embedded with the campaign, and who may be asking these questions if they're not asking them. Right. They should be doing, she should be doing press conferences. She should be doing what Donald Trump is doing and getting up at these events and sitting and taking questions. The fact that she isn't says everything. I mean, folks, let me just sort of wrap your heads around what's happening here with this election. We are now just over 3 months away from election day, right? So we are, I think, 94 days from the election right now, from election day. But Pennsylvania and I think 1 or 2 other states will start casting their ballots 50 days before everyone else. So that's basically 1 month and 10 days from now, they will start casting their ballots. That is about 3 weeks after the Democrats have their convention and finally nominate their vice presidential candidate. We may know in the next few days who that candidate is, right? We're supposed to know in the next week or so. This is a compressed time frame. Now, I'm sorry, let me take a step back here for a second, Jerry, and also explain the other aspect of this. Because I said on the air today, there really can't be an October surprise with regards to Trump, right? Donald Trump has been in the public spotlight for 9 years. We pretty much know everything we all know about him. With Joe Biden, it wasn't quite the same thing, right? Because there are constant revelations and his family's still doing stuff. I mean, unless there's some kind of revelation about Donald Trump's family. But with Kamala Harris and whoever her vice presidential candidate, we are looking at a situation in which time is so compressed, there can't be a thorough vetting here before the election actually happens. And that's a very dangerous place for America to be. And the idea, it's not even that we can't ask her about what she said 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but as Jerry accurately points out, we can't ask her what's going on in the last 24 hours, 24 days, 24 weeks. That's a problem.
And it's on purpose.
Yes.
This is how they're rigging the election this time. They are going to insulate her. They're going to protect her. They're not going to ask the difficult questions. Now, we all know who Kamala Harris is.
Yeah.
And so therefore, what I'm hoping for is that in spite of the help she's getting, she's going to open her mouth and reveal her true self. This is someone, again, who has taken the most radical leftist positions of any candidate for major office in American history. And instead of asking her these questions, we are revamping and going over Trumpisms that we've been talking about for 10 years. It is an insanity. It is a disservice. And what bothers me too is the Democratic leadership and the progressive movement and big tech and the media, they know what they're doing. Listen, the Democratic voter, the average person who votes for Democrats, are disengaged and ill-informed. And that's what they're hoping on. They're hoping for the ill-informed voter to get excited, right? They're writing all these stories about the energy. They're actually trying to create energy themselves, and they're hoping, to your point, when this early voting starts, they'll be able to extend this honeymoon so the low information voter will just pull the lever for the exciting candidate.
Right. It's two things, right? It's two competing ways of going about this. It's to generate the excitement, the manufactured excitement for this candidate who is really not all that exciting. And certainly her vice presidential pick is not going to be more exciting than she is. So set that aside.
Well, I tell you, just as again a parenthetical thought after your comment, if she chooses Pennsylvania governor.
Hold on. Let's come back to this because that is actually where I want to go next, which is talking about the Veep stick. So hold on to that thought for a second, Jared. Let me just say this. The other part of this is fear, right? So yesterday you had Kamala essentially gaslighting America, saying Donald Trump wants to terminate the Constitution and is going to engage in lawfare. Both are things that the Biden administration has done, or they want to go after your abortion rights, or they want to go after your Social Security and Medicare. All of which they're doing, right?
Just for clarity, the Harris-Biden administration in the Inflation Reduction Act cut Medicare.
Right. And understand that CMS just reported yesterday, that's the Center for Medicaid Services, that the Medicaid bids, the
Medicare bids.
Yeah, Medicare bids have gone up 179%.
The premiums in the last 3 years, Medicare premiums have skyrocketed.
Yes.
And the reason for this is the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes.
And there's myriad reasons why. First of all, it's because of the price setting and the controls on innovation, especially for small molecule companies. They're not going to make the medicines that seniors need. Also, they cut payments to Medicare Advantage, and they've also stripped money away from Medicare to pay for green projects.
Yeah.
What does this mean? It means that Medicare Part D, which is the drug benefit within Medicare, we've gone, Andrew, when Medicare Part D first came out, I think there were over 13,000 plans offered.
Yeah.
Right. Today, it's less than 700.
Yeah.
And the premiums have skyrocketed. But this is not because of business cycles or big bad insurance companies.
Because of the tinkering with the marketplace. And we put out a couple of tweets on this yesterday. But this sort of dovetails into where I want to go next, which is this issue of the Veep stakes and the landscape, right? Because you and I ran some numbers before. And listen, I want to be really clear about something. I don't think anybody really knows what's going on with the political landscape right now. And until Kamala Harris picks a vice presidential candidate,
this is a brilliant point.
We also don't know what's going on because that's going to change things.
There's lots of talk about how the polls are tightening and excitement, but here's the thing. It's all on paper.
Right. And it's all on paper because Kamala's numbers the only place they could go was up. Right. That's the reality. The other part of it is that Donald Trump hasn't really lost any ground. Right. It would be one thing if Donald Trump were losing ground to Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris was gaining, but Trump is roughly staying the same. And you can see this in sort of how they're pivoting on things, the Harris campaign and where they're focusing. Trump's campaign is remaining consistent. They're focusing on the kitchen table problems that people are facing.
Although Politico, Washington Post, Axios, et cetera, all saying that Harris has Trump off message on his heels. It's not true.
No.
But they write that.
Right. Yes.
And the
the Daily Show doing thing of Donald Trump doesn't know how to define Kamala and go after Kamala.
He did it yesterday in real time.
Right. And that's now he doesn't do it like again.
Right. He doesn't do it like you would do it, like you or I would do it. But regardless, he did it.
It's Trump. Yes, it's the same thing. And to that end, by the way, I don't know. Let's talk about Trump and JD Vance for a minute because I think you and I may be on slightly different pages about this.
Okay, can I just say something that bothers me as a father of 5?
Please.
So again, the context is a dozen issues where Kamala Harris has flip-flopped.
Yes.
And there have been no questions. There have been no pushback, no investigation, no investigative reporting.
This is a good point too.
Right. Yeah. And JD Vance makes a sarcastic remark about a cat lady.
Right.
And we all get his point. If you watch the speech, which I did, you get his point about how the Democrats, their policies favor favor a certain lifestyle.
Right.
And that families with kids are penalized by the Democrats.
Right.
This is a legitimate point.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
again, soccer moms should care about this. It's a great point. But instead of dealing with the substance of the issue, they pick up on the word.
Right.
And all the coverage is over the word, but not over the substance of what he said.
And here's my point about JD Vance, because folks are criticizing him and he was the wrong pick, blah, blah, blah. He hasn't helped the ticket, blah, blah, blah. Here's the reality. The reality is that I don't think so. So any vice presidential candidate that Donald Trump picked was going to be savaged by the press. The difference between JD Vance and others is he can withstand the pressure in a way that other candidates might fold. And we've seen this happen with other Republicans. Right. This is why when we talked about the 2016 election and moving into 2017 and the Trump presidency, how other Republicans who might have been that president, the Mitt Romneys of the world, might have withered. The Paul Ryans of the world in this case might have withered under this. But so JD Vance has that fighter instinct that Donald Trump has. Only the added benefit is that he's a hell of a lot more articulate and personable,
and he has
Donald
policy.
Trump is.
He has policy chops. Again,
yes.
we've said it on this podcast that what JD Vance represents is a philosophical moving forward of essentially MAGA.
Right.
Politics.
And do I agree with all of his policies?
No.
You know, when I just went to a dinner last week, a policy dinner last week, and we were talking about was talking with an economist about the issues of trade and regulation and taxes. And this person's big thing is making sure that, understanding trade and fiscal issues. Those are more important than regulation and the tax issue because they represent him.
Anyway. Let me just push back on that because again, you and I come out of the libertarian think tank complex.
Very excited, Jerry. I'm going to hang out with a bunch of libertarians tomorrow in New York.
So CEI, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and I've said this before. I date myself. I remember when CEI was in the forefront of making sure China received most favored nation status for trading with the U.S. And I remember at the time arguing with Fred Smith, the president of CEI. I didn't have the knowledge or the background or the information. I was. It was like a 3-year-old arguing with a professor.
Right.
But instinctually or viscerally, I understood that no, giving China what you're calling free trade, but at the expense of American workers like my dad, it felt wrong to me.
Right.
But Fred's response was, but capitalism, free trade will bring freedom ultimately. And he said this. I remember, so
this is what we thought.
In the year 2020, China will be a liberal democracy. Well, no, they were all wrong. And so my
same thing with Russia, by the way.
And so my view is that, well, maybe we should have more America first, fair trade versus what we've been doing over the past 40 years.
If the other side is going to use trade policy as a form of economic warfare, then we need to as well. And we should not disarm until they disarm. So you've got this with JD Vance. Because I'm moving because I know time is tight for both of us today. So what do you think? Right? I would have said up until a couple of days ago that Mark Kelly was in the catbird seat, that the deal. You and I have a mutual friend, Jerry. I had lunch with him last week, and he said that he had it on authority that the Obama camp had cut a deal with the Kamala Harris camp, that in order to avoid a brokered convention, Kamala was going to take Mark Kelly. Then Susan Crabtree's reporting on Mark Kelly's Chinese spy balloon. I'm sorry, let me be really clear about that. His spy balloon company that had a tremendous amount of Chinese dollars coming into it. I felt that made him a toxic candidate. Not necessarily sure about this, which put Josh Shapiro and Tim Walz back into the catbird seat. Roy Cooper is out. I don't think she's going to pick Gretchen Whitmer because I think they can get Michigan without her. But I can't understand. Right, the only good thing that Josh Shapiro has been good on, that's redundant, is school choice. He's been a little bit more thoughtful on school choice issues. I can't imagine that they'll pick him. I can't imagine that they'll pick him because of how that might play in Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota with the Muslim populations. Where do you think this thing goes?
Well, I think that Josh Shapiro is not just a problem because of the Arab and Muslim populations in Michigan and
the
elsewhere.
school choice issue.
Yeah, but however, Josh Shapiro sold out on the school choice issue. He
Yeah,
bent over backwards for the teacher unions. He line item vetoed.
there you go.
There was a modest school choice measure in the budget, and the teacher said strike it, and he struck it.
Yeah,
And
Eric
so
Telford, we talked to him from the Commonwealth
yeah,
Foundation on
so
this.
so therefore, he sold out there. He's sufficiently sold out, so he's fine on school choice. The problem is, and it's not just Michigan. The problem is that the Democratic Party is the anti-Semitic party,
Right.
and it's the anti-Israel party. And so I think they could win Michigan with a Jewish vice president candidate. That's not the issue. The issue is that is it's more anti-Semitic. I think she won't choose him because the party's anti-Semitic.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think, to me, again, it gets into the whole flip-flopping issue, right? I think she wants to ban fracking. I think she wants to
Well,
confiscate guns.
she promised to ban
No,
it,
no, I
but
understand
now
this,
she
but
says she
but my
won't,
point is she's
and no one has
flip-flopping.
asked her about
My
it.
point is in all of this is I think that Kamala Harris will say anything and do anything in order to
No,
become
I agree.
president of the United States.
You are 100% correct. I'm telling you though that the party
The party
is
won't
so
accept it.
steeped in anti-Semitism that it will hurt them. Not, yeah, in Michigan, but it'll hurt them everywhere.
So
Because
you think it'll be progressive Doug Burgum? It'll be Tim Walz?
no, I think I don't know who it's going to be. The smart choice is to push back against the anti-Semitic, anti-Zionism in her own party and choose Josh Shapiro.
Right.
I think Josh Shapiro could win her the election. Could win her the election by winning Pennsylvania. The problem is, again, this is so, and we only have a few minutes. Here's how elections have changed.
No, go ahead and explain it, Jerry. I mean, we got a couple
so,
minutes.
So
I got a hard stop where I got to talk to Vinny our old friend Vinny Vernuccio today.
He's a good guy. Yeah. So it used to be, and it's ask him about his dad, who retired to Throgs Neck in the Bronx.
I will ask him that.
They bought a house on the water in Throgs Neck.
Nice.
His dad did. His dad's a public policy guy as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has a web. He has a Substack and I think a kind of a one-man lemonade stand policy group.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Kamala.
So
win the election.
The common belief was you had 50. You needed 50 plus one to win. You need, in other words, you needed to keep your base, but expand your base.
Right.
That's how you won elections. Except Obama blew it up.
Yeah.
Obama won in 2012 by he won fewer votes. First time an incumbent had ever lost fewer votes and won re-election. He lost the white vote by 20 points. However, he increased his base vote.
Yeah.
And so the Democrats now believe they can win by by making sure their base comes out. They don't need white men. They don't need working class Hispanics.
They need. If that's true, then that's a massive mistake. I mean, I think they need their base, but I think they need a certain percentage of the independents in these states. I get what you're saying, right? If they make sure they get enough of their base voters.
But that's one model that has worked for them. Josh Shapiro blows that model up because Josh Shapiro I think would suppress their base vote. But I think because he is viewed as, it doesn't make a difference if he is or not. He will be painted as a mainstream, centrist, moderate, common sense politician, and that will help in the suburban areas, and that will win them the election. But they have to get over their own prejudice to do that.
So, okay, well, you want to go through now? Maybe we should do this every show that we do. You want to go through the battleground state map and see where things are? You don't have it up in front of you, do you?
I don't know. But
no, okay, but because I don't have the votes there. So the election were held today. Let's assume for a moment that she picks Shapiro. Let's start.
Yeah. That's who I would pick if I were her, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think that's the only pick that she has right now. I would have said up until recently that it would be Mark Kelly. But I'm not so.
I don't think Kelly gets her anything.
Well, I think he gets her more. I think he can help win her Arizona and Nevada. I think, and I would say Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. He would help there.
She's gonna lose. Look, She's going to lose Georgia.
Well, no, I understand this, but this is what I'm saying is it's just sort of help her in these other places. We're sort of going through the map. So let's start here. Who do you think is going to win Arizona?
I think that I think that I think she wins Arizona, but not because of a VP pick, because Kari Lake is such a bad candidate.
I think I actually think just the opposite. I mean, I don't think Kari Lake's a good candidate. I think the Democrats are so wildly unpopular that Trump wins in Arizona and pulls her across the finish line, which is just, she will be the MTG, the Lauren Boebert of the Senate, in a way that Kirsten Sinema was.
But she's down. She's down 4 points now.
I understand this. That's why I'm saying she limps across, or they split.
All right. So we give Trump Arizona. What about Nevada?
Nevada, I think Trump wins Nevada.
Wow. Well, then he's on his way to the presidency.
Well, okay, but I think that's listen. I say it's
so. I think Trump wins Georgia. I think Trump wins North Carolina.
Wait. What about Nevada? Do you think Trump wins Nevada?
No, I don't, but you do. But
you don't. So you don't. Okay, but I want to. This is good where you and I disagree.
I think he loses Nevada and Arizona.
Okay, well then he loses.
I think he wins Georgia and North Carolina.
I think he wins Georgia and North Carolina as well. I think if she chooses Shapiro, he loses Pennsylvania. I think Michigan. I mean, that's where it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to Michigan. And I don't know. Well, hold on. I mean, I got to take a stand on this. Let me say right now that I think Kamala Harris is going to win Michigan.
Okay.
I think she wins Wisconsin, and I think she wins Minnesota, and that's it. That's the election.
Then,
right?
If that's the case, and I agree with you, then Trump wins 270 to 268.
There you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. What a nail biter.
Yeah.
And that's just.
But that, by the way, that's giving Nevada and Arizona.
Oh, I understand. That's under me.
No. Under me, giving them both to to Harris. Let's give them both to Trump. Then it is 287 to 251.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Okay, so if we go with your scenario where you and I agree, and Trump loses Nevada, he loses all of those things, but he still wins.
260, 270, 268.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry.
The key to the White House for both of these candidates is Pennsylvania.
Well, Pennsylvania, and as you said,
Trump can lose Michigan and Wisconsin, and win Pennsylvania and still win the presidency.
Right. But he has to win Pennsylvania, and that's why they're going to pick Josh Shapiro.
Yes,
in the end,
agree.
Because
I agree.
They think that they can shore up the blue line.
So then, but then it comes down to, do you get, and this will test the Obama theory of 2012. Do you get more Pennsylvania suburban voters, which wins you the state, or does that cancel out with your base staying home in the outskirts of Philly and Pittsburgh and elsewhere? That's the question.
I don't know.
See, Shapiro could cut both ways. I agree. I would choose Shapiro. But
do
again,
we know what his approval ratings are in Pennsylvania right now?
I don't have it in front of me, but he's a popular governor.
Yeah. See, there you go. That's the question there. And Jerry, before I let you go, before you let us go, you haven't seen the Deadpool movie yet, have you?
I have not.
Are you gonna see it?
I'm kind of off of Marvel.
This is worth seeing. It's very.
I like the Marvel movies when they were connected and the characters were connected.
This is connected. This is reconnected in a way that it's worth seeing. It was full of surprises, so I enjoyed that. We're having a lot of fun. My younger one, Abby, is watching Band of Brothers right now. She's never seen it before.
So it is such a good miniseries.
And I'm very pleased. She actually gave it up. She has today off.
The Yankees won yesterday in the afternoon. So yesterday evening we had no baseball game, so we watched. We saw again Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, great movie.
every time I see it, it gets better and better and
That's
better.
good to know.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So Penny in
Yes, Penny Benjamin.
Who is she?
She's the Admiral's daughter.
Yes.
At the beginning of the movie. Yes, of course.
Well, no, I know that, but what's her connection to the first movie?
Well, that's my point. I'm sorry. At the beginning of the first movie, you made up
several
illegal passes over the tower.
Yes,
and over the Admiral's daughter. And to which point Goose says to Maverick, Penny Benjamin, and he basically says, "Shh, yes." Yes,
and
it's great.
But again, even those subtle kind of connections.
And I'll tell you something, because
it's so patriotic.
I had said before that movie came out, when it was just in concept, that it had to begin with Maverick. I'm going to use a off-color phrase, Geraldine. If the movie didn't begin with Maverick flying a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong, then that was a failure of a movie. It had to begin with that. But the fact that instead of tying in the rubber dog poop thing, they tied in Penny Benjamin, it was
brilliant.
And that
it was brilliant. So, it's such a good movie.
And the way that they dealt with Val Kilmer's illness was good. Heat has been on cable relentlessly, which, if you haven't read, by the way, I don't do a lot of book recommendations, but if you haven't read Michael Mann's novel, the sequel to Heat, which came out, I think, in the last year, which takes, Val Kilmer's character and projects him forward 30 years. It's really good. I can't recommend it highly enough. Jerry, you're on Sunday this week. I know you were off last week.
I'm back. Yeah, we had our last baseball tournament of the summer season, and I took the rare Sunday off. I'm back. We're going to go through this. A theme on the program has been, if only. Yes. If only the media did its job.
Right.
Even if they did their job in a biased manner. Yeah, ask the question. I'm going to ask the question this weekend about what did Wes Moore know, governor of Maryland? What did he know about the president's health condition? When did he know it? And did he lie to us?
Right. And if he lied about that, how can we trust him on anything else?
Exactly right.
Got it. Yes. I'm back on Monday with my show on WCBM.
By the way, I put your show on as I'm editing and that sort of thing. It's great fun. It's a really good show. Frankly, other than my show on Sunday, it might be the best show on radio right now.
Thank you very much. So, hey, I asked the question today on the show, music that you play that makes you want to tamp down on the gas pedal. What songs make you want to drive fast, Jerry?
My goodness. I'm not sure about driving fast, but I think Kashmir makes me want to do other things.
There we go. That's what I thought. Yes. Remember, when it comes to making out, always put on side.
What's the great definition?
Yes.
What's the great definition of rock and roll? It was offered to us by Arthur Fonzarelli in Happy Days.
I don't know.
A good hardcore rock and roll song should want to make you go to the parking lot and beat somebody up.
There you go. And then with that in mind, for me, I'll say something. I played Face the Face. That was sort of my big one today. Face the Face by Pete Townsend.
That's another thing. What I like about your show is that the music selection is fantastic.
Thank you.
It truly is. Yeah,
I have been trying to curate good music for the bumpers on the show.
Yeah, and again, it's almost. I'm thinking that what you ought to do is, you've been on now, what, 2 weeks?
I think 3. I got to go back.
So 3 weeks. I would, maybe this is too difficult now. Maybe moving forward, I would collect your bumpers.
Yes.
And then I'd put out I would put out a
Spotify list,
an Andrew Langer show Spotify list.
That's a really good idea. If I were on Spotify, I'll talk to one of my kids about doing that. That's a
great. Again, it's a good idea.
Thank you. There we go. All right, hey Jerry, what do you want folks to do?
Oh my goodness! Now more than ever, find the truth, plant your feet, and stand firm. God bless you.
I used that the other day on the air. I don't remember what I was talking about. I said, as my friend Jerry says, find the truth, plant your feet, and stand firm. Have a great week, everybody. Have fun, and please stay safe.